action to create a better world. Since 1994, we've asked, what can we do to make our country and the world a better place? And we've worked to find those answers, because the challenges of the past weren't obstacles but opportunity. Partnerships, skill, and funding created the solutions we see today. The Department of Science and Innovation, making sure it's possible. How do you predict the future? How do you plan for a world that doesn't exist yet? We ask questions. Questions that no one can answer yet. How do we feed a growing population?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? The President is about to come in. May I ask you to please stand? Yes. If he's sitting down, I guess we can sit down. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phil Mjwaghaldi. I will be directing the program this morning, but my daily job is being a Director General in the Department of Science and Innovation. We apologize we're starting a bit late, but Mr. President was walking around the exhibition and he promised to come back and see some of the exhibitions because he was so excited with what he saw. So my job today is rather easy, just to direct the program, but in order to contextualize this meeting, Mr. Minister and Mr. President, I was just thinking how best would I introduce what the Science, Technology and Innovation System is about and what it has been doing. And I thought of a very simple metaphor that I thought I would use this morning to say 90% of the time we get into aeroplanes, Mr. President. And when we get into aeroplanes, we are told that the flight will take so much time. And we are also told whether the flight will be smooth or rough. Have we ever thought that we are putting ourselves in a machine that will be traveling at 900 kilometers with people who are the only ones who have that information, and the rest of us as passengers are relying on them to get to our destination? So as a science system, what we are trying to do, Mr. President, is to bring you into the cockpit and then get a sense of where does this information come from. And therefore, today's session is to say, as a science system, we spend a lot of time being given the tools of trade. Are these tools of trade ready to assist the country in meeting some of the socio-economic challenges that we have. And this we have done through the white paper, which, of course, Mr. President, you are aware of, which was approved by Cabinet, and recently the decadal plan, which was also approved by Cabinet. In order to give an update on the progress that we have made on the decadal plan and its intentions, I would like to invite Minister Nzimande to give an overview and the purpose of the plenary as part of the recommendations of the white paper and the decadal plan. A round of applause for the Minister.
You see, DG, I always protest, President, about this. That today everything seems to be designed for tall people. And I did a module called Economics, President, matching human beings to machines and things they use. I feel like I must start this course for everyone, especially for designers in South Africa. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, Cabinet colleagues, honored members of Parliament who are here, representatives from foreign missions and South Africa's diplomatic corps, chairpersons of our STI entity boards, our esteemed guests from industry and civil society, vice chancellors from our universities, directors general, officials, representatives from the media, ladies and gentlemen. No modern society has as we call it in short, in the service of their society with commendable results. Hardly any of us are not aware of the role STI policy and strategy have played in the meteoric rise and spectacular growth of South Korean companies, for instance, such as Samsung and Kia, or German companies such as Siemens and Volkswagen. In South Africa, when Cabinet approved the white paper on STI 2019, an ambitious policy document aimed at creating an enabling environment for STI not only contribute to our national competitiveness on the global stage, but also to harness the benefits of STI for quality of life for our citizens. In 2022, Cabinet, led by our President, further approved the STI decadal plan to implement the white paper. The philosophy governing the implementation of South Africa's updated STI policy rests on two pillars. In the first pillar, we are widening, deepening, and transforming South Africa's national system of innovation, building on past investments and achievements to raise the scale and intensify the impact of our nation's innovation capabilities. This we are doing through enhancing human capabilities, expanding the research system to increase knowledge creation in targeted areas, ensuring an enabling environment for innovation. To illustrate, in ensuring that we are focused, Mr. President and distinguished delegates, in education and skills development, we have recently, as part of the Innovation and Skills Compact, identified the critical skills needed to ensure effective implementation of the STI policies in line with the country's Skills Master Plan. Working with the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation in government, we've also made significant progress in integrating STI into the planning for government as a whole. Part of this was to delineate the roles of various departments that have got innovation-related mandates to make sure that we build synergy among STI programs across government. We have also introduced another important mechanism which we call budget coordination for science, technology, and innovation across government departments, so that we are able to better synergize the resources that are in the hands of the department. This is what we call a whole government approach to science, technology, and innovation. To assist in such collaborative initiatives, our President Cyril Ramaphosa has set up an interministerial committee on science and innovation representing all ministers or ministries that have innovation-related mandates, such as, for instance, trade, industry and competition, higher education and training, health, agriculture, communication and digital technologies. The second pillar of our policy implementation relates to systematic focus on specific STI technical areas that are closely linked to our national priorities. To illustrate, on South Africa's journey to develop hydrogen as a source of clean, efficient, and renewable energy, work is underway through the Hydrogen Society roadmap to integrate hydrogen and fuel cell technologies in various sectors of the economy and to commercialize technology. South Africa's Hydrogen Valley, Mr. President, is a planned integrated hydrogen ecosystem stretching from Mokopane in the north of the country, where platinum group metals are mined, to Durban, where these are shipped. The main focus of the Hydrogen Valley initiative is the conversion, for instance, of heavy-duty diesel trucks from diesel to hydrogen and fuel cell power in order to reduce emissions. Moving to food security, as an example, I'm pleased that in October 2022, I, together with the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Minister Togo Didiza, we launched the Biosecurity Hub in collaboration with the University of Pretoria. This hub will facilitate collaboration to prevent, reduce, and manage crop and animal diseases, as well as assuring food safety in South Africa. This also brings me to another example in health, which is another area where we have made significant progress. As we know, the COVID-19 pandemic exposed the South African population, like much of the developing world, to serious existential threats in 2020-2021, being at the mercy of vaccine monopolies, vaccine imperialism, and outright chauvinism. Our president played a key role in opening pathways to break this legacy with global efforts to secure Africa's long-term vaccine security, and challenged us as South Africa's national system of innovation to develop new pathways to ensure our nation's health security. I'm very pleased to say that towards this end, the World Health Organization and the South African Medical and Research Council have established a new mRNA vaccine technology transfer hub in the country, with similar hubs intended for other low and middle-income countries such as Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, and Tunisia. And under this program, we have successfully developed a new mRNA COVID-19 vaccine candidate, AfriVac 2121, and its demonstration in animal models has been positive already. That's what we are capable of, Mr. President, as a country. More broadly, and further to the President's call, our Department of Science and Innovation is currently rolling out a National Vaccine Innovation and Manufacturing Strategy, VIMS, built around the development of 3 additional vaccine platforms. It's the viral-like particle, it's the inactivated virus, and conjugated vaccine platforms. Its aim is to develop South Africa's vaccine innovation and manufacturing capabilities across the upstream and downstream parts of the value chain. This project is a national health priority, that seeks to enhance access to affordable quality vaccines and build capacity in the country and across the African continent. Moving to reindustrialization, Mr. President and delegates of South Africa, and in particular the role that science, technology and innovation, STI, can play in the modernization of traditional sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing and mining. I just want to quickly highlight the work we are doing under the umbrella of the Mandela Mining Precinct, because this is an opportunity also to account, President, to tell the nation in this important platform of yours on what we are doing and what we are capable of, so that we know what is it that we can build on. We have what we call the Mandela Mining Precinct. This is a public-private partnership between the Department of Science and Innovation and the Minerals Council of South Africa. It is aimed at revitalizing mining research and innovation in South Africa to ensure the sustainability of the South African mining industry. Also, the aim is to improve the safety of mines, as well as to introduce innovative technologies, as well as to understand how modernization will impact on people in the mineral sector. While working to support STI-enabled reindustrialization, we are also being strategic about using STI towards a more circular economy, which is another important area of intervention. In other words, we want to move away from our extractive-based economy that has large throughputs of resources and where we mostly export resources for further international beneficiation with limited resource returns into our own economy. I also want to highlight that a circular approach is where we recycle waste and reuse and regenerate materials that have many applications in areas such as agriculture, mining, manufacturing, human settlement, and transport. I also want to emphasize some areas where we've made progress in using STI to enhance service delivery and improve the capacity of the state. STI cuts across society. That's why, President, our slogan as the Department of Science and Innovation, making sure it's possible. Building on Nelson Mandela's famous saying, it always seems impossible until it is done. So we are joining on that to making sure that indeed it is possible. For instance, we are exploiting our space technologies, you have seen some of that, President, now, to collect satellite data and use this to inform government decision-making. To illustrate, through our space program of Earth observation for human settlements, we can monitor informal settlements and housing development projects using high-resolution satellite imagery, thereby improving planning and identifying areas that are vulnerable to geo-environmental risks. People who ask, why spend money up in the space when we need housing on the ground? We're spending money in the space so that we understand better how to deliver better houses. So there's a very clear connection between those things. Municipalities and district authorities are the closest to citizens in delivering services. Building on our STI capabilities, we are working to improve the capabilities of these organs of state. Some of the programs I'm very excited about in this field is, for instance, our Municipal Innovation Maturity Index. President, we are able to measure every municipality, how mature it is in terms of innovation or science, technology and innovation, which is a very important test which can enable us to advance STI at local government level. Through these STI applications, also government can identify areas where additional resources are needed. This progress notwithstanding, there is still so much to do. And as the DG indicated in his opening remarks, the environment in which we are implementing our STI policy is challenging, not in the least because whilst we have to be competitive in an increasingly climate-sensitive global economy, we also need to address our long-standing socio-economic challenges: unemployment, poverty and inequality, infrastructure and logistics constraints, crime and corruption, to name the most pressing. Our philosophy as a department, it ain't science unless it touches the lives of ordinary people as well. Now, I want to say, as I move towards ending, President, it is here that we value the partnership with the business sector, academia and civil society. We have already seen how collaboration with these partners in the national system of innovation can multiply the resources and expertise of government. Another example is the Innovation Fund, which is a public-private partnership aimed at supporting technology-based SMMEs through to commercialization. For example, the private sector co-invests with government, and since 2020-2021, 24 projects have been supported, attracting some 1.8 billion of investment from the private sector. We need to nurture these partnerships, and that's the purpose why the presidential plenary has been established, where the president meets with all the key stakeholders, and they are here, President, in front of you, representing very key role players and sectors in our STI space. The STI plenary, of course, in the first instance will be guided by the president himself, but also the STI plenary will be guided by the work done by the interministerial committee established by the president, as well as by the analysis and policy advice from the National Council on Innovation. This presidential plenary also, we hope, will play a very important role in setting an agenda for science. I'm therefore gratified to see everyone who is here. Finally, let me state clearly that when we refer to STI, we refer to both, I need to say this, President, we refer to both natural and social sciences and humanities. For it is only possible to understand, let alone solve, the major developmental and existential challenges of the 21st century through invoking the insights of transdisciplinary knowledge. It ain't science unless it is interdisciplinary. On that note, I now hand back over to you, Program Director, also by saying, President, you don't know how excited I am, and many people who are here, that you could set aside time and make this morning the science morning for the President of the Republic of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Our sincere apologies, Minister, for the ergonomics of the podium. We didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. The Minister has indicated that we've been working with business, and also we have been trying to reach out to business. Recently, we met with Business Unity South Africa and explored some of the areas of work that they would like to do with government. I think last week in particular, following the dinner that we had a couple of months ago. And in that meeting, we explored how we can use innovation to address the immediate challenges that the country has in logistics, in crime, and in electricity. And we have agreed that detailed work will be done to support government in these three important areas. So to just give messages of support and the fact that we would like to continue to work with business, we have Mr. Kas Kovadia, the CEO of Business Unity South Africa. You are allowed to clap.
Thank you, DG. Honorable President, Minister Ndimande, DG, and other colleagues and members of Parliament, people from government, business, and civil society. Thank you for the invitation. Let me, in providing a message of support from Business Unity South Africa and on behalf of business, firstly recognize the progress that has been made in the STI environment through the department and through other organizations and structures of the department, as enumerated here by the Minister. And I think that we need to be very proud of the progress that has been made, and we congratulate the department on that. On science, technology, and innovation is obviously critical to our country, as it is critical in the global environment, given the evolving environment and evolving economies and evolving geopolitics that we face. And we obviously need to ensure that we do everything we can to be a country that is recognized to be at the forefront of developing innovation, of being quite clear that we need to utilize science, technology, and innovation to not just promote our economy, but to deal with the socioeconomic problems we have in the country. We believe that we have the ingredients in the country to actually be a leading player. We have globally competitive companies in the country that are at the cutting edge of innovation in many areas. We have a history of innovation in the country. We have a youth demographic that can be trained and skilled to play a critical role and lead our path in science, technology, and innovation. And we are on a continent that in many aspects is leapfrogging in this area. And we can draw on that and leverage of that and work with countries in Africa to do that. The Minister talked about the partnership between government and business on this, and we believe that we need to build on the already existing partnerships. I think there shouldn't be an ideological debate any longer on whether business and government work together or not. We've got to use all the resources we have in this country and optimize those resources, and that happens through these partnerships. And I think the partnerships can do a couple of things. One, it can identify our competitive advantages in the country and in the world. It can bring about significant collaboration between the private sector, government, and academia, as is already happening. We can put into place demand-led skilling programs, and they need to be demand-led. We ensure that we have an enabling policy environment with proper implementation. We already, the DG referred to this, and the Minister, that we already have a partnership between business and government on 3 critical areas in the country, being energy, logistics and transport, and crime and corruption. The partnership is led by the President. And I'm certainly of the view that we're making good progress. Are we making fast enough progress that both government and business would want? No, but we're making good progress and we're making steady progress. And given that we only started essentially in April, I think, this year, when we presented this to the President, so it's been about 6 or 7 months. And in those 6 or 7 months, I think we've made very good progress. And so I think we have a model on which to build, and we would certainly, as BUSA, be happy to work with your department, Minister, and DG to see how we build those sorts of partnerships in the STI environment. We also, beside those 3 areas, we put together a team to, again, between business and government, on government side led by the Department of Employment and Labor, to look at employment opportunities. And one of the sectors that we've identified is science and technology. And so I think that we need to work in partnership to see how we leverage of that. So thank you very much for the invitation. We are very happy to support the initiative, and we are very happy to try and explore that partnership. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Cas. And now I would like to invite Dr. Lamini, the CEO of the CSIR. He's representing the program which is trying to modernize mining. We couldn't get anyone from the Mineral Council, but he has agreed, because the program is coordinated and supported by the CSIR, to say a few words. Dr. Lamini.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mchwaka. His Excellency President Ramaphosa, the Honorable Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Dr. Blade Nzimande, colleagues from different government departments, industry, research and technology organizations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think, as the DG already indicated, instead of giving a generic comment as a message of support, we thought we'll reflect on an initiative that has brought together government, labor, industry, and the research community to address key and critical areas facing the mining sector under the umbrella of the Mandela Mining Precinct. I think this demonstrates what is possible if we work together in a collaborative spirit. Now, the Mandela Mining Precinct is an industry support initiative of the Department of Science and Innovation and the Minerals Council South Africa, which is managed by the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. It arose out of the mining Pakisa in 2015, where labor, government, academia, RTOs, business and other stakeholders identified the critical challenges of sustainability, particularly in the gold and platinum sectors, including, of course, the possibility of job losses. Now, to overcome these challenges, the Department of Science and Innovation invested in the development of the South African Minerals Extraction Research and Development Strategy. And the Mandela Mining Precinct then was created and launched in 2015 as a vehicle that will see the realization and the implementation of this strategy. I think, as the Minister spoke earlier, it is a true public-private partnership funded by the Department of Science and Innovation and the Minerals Council South Africa to revitalize mining research, development and innovation, and to ensure the sustainability of the mining industry in South Africa, with a specific focus on minerals extraction. Now, what is unique about the MMP is that here we have researchers from RTOs and academia. We have industry, both mining houses as well as equipment manufacturers, organized labor and government, working together to develop local capabilities and intellectual property that will ensure the future sustainability of mining in South Africa. We've also signed a compact between the CSIR, representing DSI and government, the Minerals Council South Africa, and various labor unions to demonstrate our collective commitment towards this partnership. Now, you will ask, so what have you achieved over the past 5 years? I must say that one speaks about this with a sense of pride in terms of the strides and the progress that we've made, President, over the past 5 years. We have developed and transferred over 50 products. This is guidelines, technologies, technical solutions that have been transferred to industry to support localization and development of small and medium enterprises which supply into this sector. Just to give a sense of some of these products, we've developed something called the Isidingo drill, which is a faster, lighter, and easily maneuverable drill, making it perfectly suited for use, particularly by women who have been excluded, of course, as we all know, from some of the activities in mining. We've implemented various technologies which embed safety features through the use of sensors to detect humans in close proximity. We've also developed the gold and platinum group metals resource atlas together with the Council for Geosciences. Now, data analytics, digitization, and visualization are the future of mining. And in this regard, the partners in the precinct have developed a number of products to support this transition which is coming. And I can mention a few of the things we've done here. We've developed a scalable open data analytics platforms and reference architecture. The colleagues have developed a digital business case validation tool, a very important tool which evaluates the financial and non-financial impact a digital initiative or portfolio of initiatives will have at a mine and across the enterprise. We've also realized the need to understand and address the impact of technology on people. Just like we talk about the just transition in the energy sector, we also need to talk about the just transition in the mining sector. And working with our partners from organized labor, we've developed a people-centered guideline for minerals, for the mineral sector. And these guidelines covers issues such as training needs assessments for mining modernization, SME communication solutions, community social needs assessment, and many others. I think these are just examples of the wonderful work that has been done under the Mandela Mining Precinct. In my view, I think we need an MMP equivalent for all the sectors of the South African economy to drive localization, modernization, capacity development, and competitiveness. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dr. Lamini. Now I'd like to invite the Chief Executive Officer of the National Advisory Council on Innovation. This is a body that advises Cabinet through our Minister on innovation issues, and Dr. Cele will give us an idea of opportunities for growth and development that are offered by innovation. Dr. Cele.
Thank you very much, DG. Good morning, His Excellency President Ramaphosa. Good morning, Professor Zimande. The protocol observed. President, we thought as National Advisory Council on Innovation, it's important to do some international benchmark to locate what the Minister has presented and what the department is doing in pursuing the noble objective of using science, technology, and innovation in transforming or in addressing the societal challenges and creating an inclusive and sustainable development. We did an international benchmark to look at those countries that have followed the same path and made progress. In this instance, we looked at China. What's going on? So we looked at China and South Korea. Of course, some people may quibble and ask us, why do you compare South Africa with China? We're not interested in the sheer size of China as a population, but it's the underpinnings of its socio-economic development. That's STI. That was our interest, President. There are two main observations that we made in looking at these two countries. And in fact, that builds, or that constitutes the first point that we'd like to convey to this meeting, because there are essentially 3 points we want to communicate. In these two countries, there are three things that are obvious when you analyze their system. That they see science and technology as the primary productive force. So that's the first thing. The second one, they see talent as the critical primary resource. And thirdly, they see innovation as the primary driver of growth. And then, of course, we also observe that in order for these countries to realize their objectives as, in utilizing STI for development, they've also created a particular governance and advisory architecture. It's a three-tier system or tier system. So there is level 1, which provides strategic directionality and agenda setting. Level 2, it's coordinating and programming. And then level 3, that's implementation. The second message we would like to convey to this plenary, based on our observation of these two countries, is that they see investment in STI as a critical enabler for their socio-economic development. And thirdly, based on our analysis, what is also clear from these countries is that they have a sustained commitment and long-term thinking and prioritization of STI, which is critical to their progress. So just quickly to take you through what we have indicated. In China, President Xi has two sources of receiving scientific advice or evidence. The first one is the Communist Party of China's Central Committee Commission on STI. And that's the commission, Mr. President, that provides direct access to President Xi Jinping, advisory on STI, and it's a critical body. At a state level, they have what is called, they have the Ministry of Science and Technology, and critically they have the National Science and Technology and Advisory Committee, which is an equivalent of our entity. And then, of course, they will have different agencies. So, but the level 1 and 2, they are very important because they provide a source from which the President of China is able to access scientific advice. In South Korea, you also have a three-tier system. They have a Presidential Advisory Council on Science and Technology, and then they have the Ministry of Science and ICT, and they have what is called the STI Office, or commonly known as Control Tower. So that provides a cross-departmental coordination. And then, of course, they will have a range of entities that provide implementation. As I said, level 1 and 2, they provide the basis from which the South Korean president or prime minister is able to access scientific advice and evidence. Just briefly on how China has been able to develop its technological capability. One of the initiatives that China did some decades ago was to establish a state-sponsored indigenous innovation program that was meant to strengthen their domestic capacity to create technological change. But of course, we know that China used capabilities accumulated through producing low-quality goods to less sophisticated markets to make breakthrough into high-end global markets, initially dominated by foreign multinationals. But beyond that, Mr. President, they also saw it fit to invest heavily on R&D. And you can see that the R&D investment increased by 10.3%, which was equivalent of 2.4% of their GDP in 2020. And also they increased their R&D expenditures in high-tech industries, and the total amounts are provided. But also what is important is that China recognized in the 70s that it was important for them to develop the necessary critical mass. So they built about 700 R&D institutes with over 500,000 scientists and engineers, nearly as many as in the United States. This happened in the 70s. So you can imagine where they are now. But China has also been able to use STI to intervene decisively in addressing development challenges in their rural areas. For instance, they deployed a team of 800 technicians and provided a fund of over 20 billion to train local population in impoverished areas for the adoption of new production technologies. And they launched about 37,600 high-tech programs in different domains and introduced 50,000 advanced technologies for the industrialization of rural areas. So this is one way in which China has sought to really intervene in transforming their rural development areas. Of course, South Korea is part of it's a well-known case of the Asian tigers, but what underlines their success story is their initial decision to invest in human resources as well as knowledge or research, as it were. And that has played a big role in terms of helping South Korea to make rapid progress towards the global innovation frontier, with the potential, Mr. President, to lead global markets in crucial digital technologies such as in 6G infrastructure. But the emphasis with the South Korean case is that they have been investing in human resources for a very long time. And also, South Korea is the second, if I'm correct, country to invest in terms of R&D as a percentage of GDP. Now, of course, the second message we want to convey of investment as a critical enabler, we looked now at 3 countries. We compared South Africa, China, and Republic of Korea, Mr. President, and you can see that what is common between China and South Korea is that they have consistently been investing in their R&D. Of course, our story is different because we're actually moving in the opposite direction, Mr. President. And the minister did allude to this. Now, if you split, you look at this expenditure in terms of who's funding or who is investing in terms of business and government. Again, the story of the 3 countries is so stark. So you can see China and South Korea that business invests more compared to South Africa. In South Africa, government invests more, which is the opposite. So, Mr. President, this is one of the inconvenient truths that the President needs to appreciate. It's an inconvenient truth, President. The picture needs to be different. We need to move to the direction of South Korea, and in fact, here there are some experts who are spending time doing the analysis. Even this government proportion, Mr. President, the picture may look different once the 3 billion that the Treasury has proposed to cut from the sector in 3 years' time. The picture would look different. So maybe the key message, Mr. President, is that we should, like these other countries, treat investment in R&D differently from other budget items. In fact, we shouldn't be touching STI at all if we want to be at the same level. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on this one because you can see, if you look at the extent to which higher education and other private non-profit sectors we have covered. Just in summary, President, of the numbers we've shared, you can see that China and South Korea have consistently increased their investment in research and development, even during the global economic recession and during COVID. And we have said that in China and South Korea, business expenditure on R&D is higher than public expenditure on R&D, combining government and higher education. In South Africa, as I said, the government expenditure is higher than business R&D. So we're grateful that there are people from business present who may in fact explain why the situation is as it is. Now, on the third message, we thought, President, we should use the two projects that South Africa had invested heavily previously, but for different reasons we stopped those projects, to illustrate or to make the point that we need to sustain our commitment and embrace long-term and foresight thinking, which are critical if we are to remain on course as South Africa, if we want to catch up and also to supersede the country. So we have the PBMR, the pebble blade, modular reactor, and Joel as examples. But before I touch on these, colleagues, so that people don't walk away, Mr. President, thinking that we were just meant to deliver inconvenient truths, we thought we should just share this slide. The emphasis is on appreciating the investments that have been made previously and what these investments have done to improve, to enhance our global standing in terms of scientific infrastructure and technological infrastructure. And this has given us the possibility, for instance, to host the Square Kilometre Array, to be able to intervene decisively during COVID, but also to do what the minister alluded to develop the vaccine manufacturing capability and to participate in the greening of technologies. It's because of this, the previous investments that have been made. So we're more or less doing well in terms of scientific infrastructure. That's the emphasis around this, and we need to maintain that and even do better. So colleagues, you may be aware of the PBMR. I don't want to spend time, but just to remind colleagues of what was the local value proposition of PBMR at the time. In terms of local manufacturing, PBMR was meant to use the design capability to stimulate local high-tech manufacturing capability. But we also saw it in terms of geopolitics as a powerful footprint of modernity on the African continent. In terms of Joel, of course, Joel, the intention was to establish an electrical vehicle industry in South Africa, and there was a projection of 10% of the Joel models which would have been sold in South Africa. Of course, there was a global targeted market, mainly Europe, and then China afterwards. There was an estimated 160,000 jobs that were to be created and a contribution towards the reduction of green gas emissions. Three challenges potentially present that led to PBMR being closed. Firstly, of the stakeholders that were involved, that's government, Eskom, IDC, Westinghouse, and Exelon, they were not able to reach a shareholder agreement. Secondly, within government, there was a lack of broad political support outside the lead department. As some said, the project actually had one champion, so it needed multiple champions. Thirdly, Eskom board, which had initially embraced PBMR, but it decided to terminate it. And of course, now we are aware, Mr. President, that there are countries that are now tapping into this technology and they are using it to develop their energy capabilities. Again, this is an opportunity probably lost for South Africa, and we had invested billions of rands and developed thousands of scientists and engineers, and some of those are now applying their trade abroad. In terms of Joel, the major challenge was funding. It required 9.8 billion to commercialize. It needed to manufacture a minimum of 50,000 cars. Two agencies that would have played a critical role, that's TIA and IDC, they were not able to play their role. Consequently, we stopped. And as I understand, the Nelson Mandela University has 4 prototypes, cars of Joule. All we needed to do was to manufacture. We needed money. The money was not available. And we could be playing with the big boys and girls, President, in the EV space had we seized the opportunity. So in conclusion, Mr. President, there are 3 points, maybe 4 that we want to, maybe this presentation was meant to convey, is that we're firmly convinced that STI can address societal challenges and then of course they can improve their well-being and create the necessary inclusive and sustainable socio-economic development. But for this to happen, it requires the whole of society approach and a long-term thinking and sustained investment in STI and people. And then, of course, there's a strong role for building partnerships and cooperation, both domestically and internationally. And then finally, as we have seen with the Chinese case, we need to deepen the implementation of innovation for inclusive development, including grassroots innovations, if we are to make a dent in terms of addressing societal inequalities in South Africa. With these words, we wish to thank Professor for the opportunity to present to His Excellency and colleagues. Thank you very much, colleagues, for also listening to us.
Thanks very much, Dr. Cele. When we were having a chat, Mr. President, with Dr. Cele earlier on, he said he was very happy that he would sit next to you. And then we were saying, it seems the Celes are always next to the President to protect and look after him. Now, thanks very much, Dr. Cele. So we have, Mr. President, invited 4 stakeholders from the NSI to answer just a few questions around the NSI and how they see this going forward. So we have Professor Lynn Morris, who is a Deputy Vice Chancellor from Wits University. Lynn, are you nearby? Please come this side. Just to say a few words about how she sees the role of universities in the project that we are talking about. It will be followed by Professor Sarah Muswetsa from the Human Sciences Research Council. Sarah, I saw you earlier on. We will talk about the science councils and their role in driving innovation going forward. And then we also have Mr. Stavros here, who will say a few words about his challenges in vaccine, but also how I think the private sector and the vaccine can play a role going forward. And then lastly, we'll have Ms. Sandra Kramer, the EU ambassador to SA. They provide almost 800 million rands to the science system in South Africa. So we'll just ask her, why do they believe so much in the South African science system? So they're all going to say a few words, starting with yourself, Professor Lynn Morris. Over to you.
Thank you very much, DG, and thank you very much to the President for this opportunity, to focus on science and how really as scientists and the broader NSI can contribute to solving our challenges. So thanks for particularly the ability to highlight the important role of universities in supporting the NSI. I think we all know universities are key players in the research and innovation landscape and have a strong track record in this area. They produce most of the new knowledge as measured by the traditional research outputs. Universities are by their nature multidisciplinary and can draw on their expertise from all spheres. Indeed, successful innovations rely heavily on this interdisciplinarity. Innovation is not just about implementing technology, but also about social innovation. How will these new innovations make people's lives better, particularly the most vulnerable members of our society, and for which we do need the social sciences? And there are many examples globally of highly successful innovations that have come out of universities such as Google, Genentech, the AstraZeneca vaccine, to name a few. But we need to support our own innovation ecosystem in Africa and not rely on the global community to solve our problems. There have been some remarkable innovations coming out of African universities, such as solar-powered ATMs in Nigeria and M-Pesa, a cell phone-based money transfer system in Kenya. During COVID, the WHO did an analysis of the contributions made by different sectors to solving the crisis, and universities came out as the most significant contributors. This is quite remarkable when you think about the many prominent players, including the WHO, the NIH, the CDC, various pharma companies, NGOs, government institutions, and many others. In South Africa, of course, we all know about the excellent work done by our scientists in this area, and we applaud the South African government for securing the mRNA tech transfer hub that is a collaboration between universities and biotech, as mentioned earlier by Minister Nzimande. So universities are full of smart young people and curiosity-driven thinkers doing high-risk research, which is often not possible in other environments. They're dedicated to conducting research and work closely with the science councils and agencies. They do both investigator-driven research and contract research that could lead to commercialization. However, we are all aware of how inefficient this process of converting new knowledge and products into services is. In South Africa, very little intellectual property from universities results in commercialization. So we're not maximizing our own research. This is the problem that we need to solve. And to do this, universities need stable and sustainable funding, including from government, to support, grow, and maximize the impact of their research. And here are a few suggestions. So and of course it is often about funding, and it is about equivalent funding to support innovation. The funding from the DSI is currently largely biased towards research through the NRF versus innovation and commercialization largely through TIA. So there's really an innovation chasm that's never changed much in over a decade. And universities are expected to fight for limited seed funding, barely enough for a prototype. There's limited and disjointed recognition and incentives for innovation. What we need is programs that support innovation that have proven to be very successful for research. For example, the NRF chairs and COEs, and of course even the ratings, to really stimulate academics to invest more in this space. We also currently have quite a narrow definition of innovation, limited to a few disciplines. So a more inclusive definition is required. And innovation should cut across all government departments and not limited just to the DSI. We need a quintuple helix view of industry, academia, society, community, and environment versus the more traditional triple helix. And we need incentives to encourage more involvement from industry. And we need to enable funding from ideation to commercialization to be seamless across various funding instruments with no functional silos. And then finally, we need to reform the regulatory environment to assist startups to improve their chances of success. And this includes making it attractive for investors, including venture capital, to support our national system of innovation. I thank you.
His Excellency, our President, Mr. Ramaphosa, our Minister, Professor Nzimande, our DG, colleagues, I've been told that I only have a minute, and I'm a social scientist, I'm a sociologist. You know how I can turn that minute into an hour. Respect to our President, I won't do that. Just want to share maybe 4 or 5 ideas, and let me start here. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of a government, a country that takes all sciences seriously and includes them, especially the humanities and social sciences. We demonstrated this very well during our very intense times of COVID-19, where we turned the corner and included the humanities and social sciences. Mr. President, we thank you. While the world was thinking that most of the deaths were going to happen in our continent, didn't, precisely because of the leadership of this country, indeed including the humanities and social sciences. It is also this government that has a very progressive science policy, and for us sitting here, I am indeed very proud that we have a decadal plan that also puts the humanities and social sciences at the forefront as an equal science. The implementation of the decadal plan and our science policy, however, will require us to think creatively. And I want to suggest that we do 4 things. We already have done one of them. We have a champion in our president. He's sitting here. He could be in many parts of the country and the world, as you know where the world stands currently. Funding remains important. Mr. President and my colleague, Dr. Cele, and the universities have also stated this, but I also want to ask, Mr. President, that other than funding, and I'm glad that our friends in business, yes, they are our friends in business, are here to also support the work that needs to happen. I think, though, that we need to pay particular attention to the barriers that, at least as Science Council, we experience when we need to do business with the same government that funds us. We are the entities of government, and I think those barriers remain there, and I think as part of what we need to be doing moving forward is removing those barriers so that that money that we generate, that money, the funding that we collect as a science councils, we are able to spend it for the benefit of our country and indeed the continent. The second issue is that of capacity building. We know that we are in a difficult time, we live in difficult times in terms of money, Mr. President, and we are now on cost containment. We're hoping that those cost containment are not going to affect us, and this is why you are here, and this is the message that you're going to be delivering just now. No pressure, Mr. President. Capacity building remains important, as my colleague Dr. Cele was presenting on the 2 countries, our friends from Korea and China. That capacity building, even when we don't have resources, should remain a priority, for we are not responding to the immediate challenges, but future challenges. And the next generation of academics remain important. The next generation of researchers remain important for our country, but I also want to highlight the next generation of critical thinkers in our country remains even more important now. Thirdly, of course, the reliance on all sciences remains important. Let me conclude on the 4th point, that Mr. President, as councils, and particularly speaking on behalf of the Human Sciences Research Council, we stand ready to deliver on what needs to be delivered for this country, for the challenges are complex and they require all of us to work, and this summit, I think, is a testament of all of us wanting to work for the better good of this country and this continent and the global south. Before I forget, Mr. President, you gave HSRC an important task of doing an audit, a skills audit, during your, I think it was one of your speeches earlier this year. Mr. President, I'm here to give a feedback that that project is going very well, and you should be receiving a report very soon. And I know I said finally, I am a social scientist. There are many finals. This is the last final. Mr. President, as HSRC, we are also ready to tell the story of our democracy in 2024, our democracy at 30. we remain steadfast in the work that needs to be done, led by our Minister and our DG. I thank you.
His Excellency President Ramaphosa, I have the same problem as Minister Blade in Zimande, so I'm adjusting the mic accordingly. Let me firstly acknowledge all the other dignitaries, esteemed colleagues in the room. I'm wearing my Aspen hat today, because I wear many others. And the DG earlier, when he introduced me, he said I should talk about challenges in vaccine manufacture. So as the longest serving DG, President, we'll give him some leeway. I'd rather talk about the opportunities rather than the challenges in vaccine manufacture. I'm going to keep my intervention brief, and I want to turn the clock back momentarily to preface a very important statement, and then I'll move it to where we are today. Preface number one is that nothing creates jobs and has a more impactful multiplier economic effect than innovation and manufacturing. Okay. Preface number two is, regrettably, if we were to look at the trends in our country in the last 25 years, manufacturing used to contribute 22% to GDP. It now contributes exactly half of that. So therein lies the opportunity rather than the challenge. And thirdly, I'm going to talk very briefly about a vaccine journey, and maybe you'll write a book on it one day, President. I'll contribute a chapter. At the onset of COVID, the whole world came together in January and February of 2020, and they said, we're all going to act in solidarity. No one will be left behind. Okay, but guess what happened? Everyone shut their borders and everyone hoarded vaccines, and we were left in the lurch. We were fortunate that our president at the time was the chair of the African Union. A year later became the African Union COVID champion, and only because I've read this and it's in the public domain, he's soon to become the African Union pandemic preparedness champion. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because in our hour of need, nothing trumps innovation. And that's exactly what we did. So when the world shut its borders, and there are many, many stories one can tell, but we were left in the lurch, and we had to traverse very often tragic consequences where lives and livelihoods were unnecessarily lost. And this led to two things happening. The first was an African Union Bureau Heads of State meeting on the 10th of May 2022. And President, you will remember, because Sandra Kramer is in the room, the EU ambassador, I think, there she is. President Macron also was in that meeting. And there was a statement released 7 days later. And that statement said that never shall this be repeated, that Africa is at the back end of the queue. We need to build partnerships, and we need to ensure that Africa develops its own capacity and capability. And that set in motion a cascade of events. And I'm pleased to tell you, one of the single most meaningful events in pursuit of this national and continental priority happened last Thursday evening. It was at the Gavi board meeting. For those of you who don't know Gavi, Gavi is the Global Vaccine Alliance. And Gavi procures most of Africa's vaccine requirements. One little problem, they did not procure a single dose, let alone vial, of vaccine from any African company. So this announcement on Thursday evening is in part due to the efforts of our President and the government, and it sets off what we hope to be a future cascade of events. And what was this announcement? It was the announcement of something called an AVMA. It doesn't go far enough, President, but it's a first important step. AVMA stands for African Vaccine Manufacturers Accelerator. And it's exactly what it says, it's an accelerator. And it will lend itself to partnerships, Sandra, with Europeans, partners from the East and West. But it sets in motion the first meaningful step for production of vaccines to happen on our continent. And neither should it stop at vaccines, because our continent imports 80% of its medical and pharmaceutical requirements. That is counterintuitive because we have the highest disease burden of any country in the world. Now let me start ending off, DG, before I incur your wrath. Okay, where am I going to with all of this? I've tried to highlight what the challenge was at the time and how we have begun to turn this into an opportunity. And the opportunity here is, if I look at my own company, we were the first and only company in the Southern Hemisphere and on the African continent, albeit under contract manufacture, to produce a COVID vaccine. But this has now led to other initiatives. And I'm pleased to tell you, and this is happening in our own country, in Kebega in the Eastern Cape, we will be producing insulin, which is a difficult and complex, it's a biologic to manufacture. We will be doing so in Q1 of next year. That is an achievement for the country. So this is the benefit of these initiatives, because one thing leads to another. And President, we don't have to say, well, when are we going to be in the next pandemic? We are already in the next pandemic. It's called non-communicable diseases. And the most sinister of those pandemics is diabetes. It's more destructive than the infectious diseases. And that's why we need to get to grips with diabetes and cancer. Okay, now, to end off with, it's great, President, that Gavi has made this announcement. My appeal today, however, is we need to align that announcement with our own preferential procurement and localization effort in our own country. It's out of kilter. Let me commend Minister Nzimande and DG Phil, because they have been at the forefront, together with Minister Patel and his team, pushing for this localization effort. But we haven't landed it as a country as yet. We get stuck on 2 points. The first point is, who puts out the budget for localization? Because the health department, Mr. Patla will say, no, but my mandate is I've got to stretch my rand to service as many patients as possible. Minister Patel and Mr. Nzimande will say, well, let's stop haggling about that. Let's find the common ground. Okay. It shouldn't really matter where it comes from, but we need to identify who owns this. We need a champion and an owner. Okay, like you championed during COVID. The second thing is, this thing of, are we going to pay 10 cents more and we could service more people? A study on ARVs demonstrated that for every 1 rand procured through the public sector at the time, there was 32 cents benefit that went back into the economy. So if we're saying we're going to pay 10% more, but we're losing 32% in the multiplier effect, it's a no-brainer. So we should, once and for all, I believe, as a country, sort out this thing of what is an appropriate and acceptable premium, if any, to stimulate and boost localization. I'm going to end off there. It's been a great pleasure. It's been an interesting journey. There's much to do and much to be done still. And we are confident that using that same innovation, we will land many, many more of these contracts. Insulin today oncology products tomorrow, and so the list goes on. But we do need to sort out our localization efforts in our country to align them with Gavi and others. Thanks very much.
Mr. President, Minister Zimande, DG, everyone in the room, good morning, all protocols observed. Stavros' idea of a minute is a bit challenging, so with your permission, I will be extremely short. I will just want to tell you all how delighted I am to be here. I'm the European Union Ambassador to South Africa. The European Union and South Africa cooperate on science, technology and innovation, and it is going from strength to strength. And as I'm standing here, I would like to thank the President, the Presidency, but also personally Minister Zimande, who has been instrumental in making this happen and who actually just concluded an extremely successful visit to Brussels. Why do we do this? Well, we think the world is challenged, and those global challenges are facing us all, be it climate change or digitalization, demography challenges or inequalities, and everyone needs to play a role, but science, technology and innovation, as was said before, plays a key role. We want research and innovation to be based on rules and values such as academic freedom, gender equality, research ethics, open society, and evidence-based policymaking. And we want openness. Simply put, no one can win the innovation race erecting barriers. And how do we roll that out? Well, we have the world's largest public research program called Horizon. And South Africa is extremely good in using Horizon. Why? Because it is what was said before also by the business, by Mr. Kovaria, because you have such excellent research institutes and universities. So there are about 118 South African institutions and universities that are currently funded through the Horizon program. And that amounts to about 40 million euros grant money, and that is what the DG referred to. We also, on top of that, and to take us back to the vaccine manufacturing again, fund mRNA vaccine manufacturing through Afrigen and BioVac in Cape Town. That is vaccines, and the mRNA vaccines that are being produced there are in clinical trials, so they are very, very close to producing vaccines in Africa for Africa. And that is the strategic autonomy that you spoke about before that is really important. We also work in very many other fields, such as medicine, nuclear medicine with the Steve Biko Hospital here in Pretoria. As we move forward, where do we want to go? Well, I think we want to strengthen even further the link between innovation and job creation. It was said before, and that is something that we would like to look at more, including small and medium-sized enterprises and startups. We also would like to explore opportunities in green hydrogen, in electric batteries, in circular economy, but also in critical raw materials, with local value addition very much at the heart of the matter. We'd like to look at the digital agenda and satellite observation. All of those are areas for further collaboration. South Africa is a valued partner of the European Union, and specifically in the field of science and innovation, we have a very flourishing partnership. With this, and with great thanks again to the President and the Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all those short but very powerful messages, as well as commitment to working together. I am now going to be calling on the President, introducing him briefly. President needs no introduction, and he is many things at the same time, one in many things. But let me say this, President. I'm struck by your love of science and technology. Doing rounds this morning, your knowledge just scared me, you know. on some of the things, whether it's satellites, and so on. But President, I don't know if you remember that in 2020 you phoned me on the 24th as a minister, and the President simply said to me, you know what? I want you in the new year to convince South African scientists. I don't believe that we cannot be able to actually make our own vaccines to deal with COVID and other capacity. This capacity, President, that we are talking about is as a direct outcome of that call of the 24th of December 2020. But your love also for the people, your love for science is because of the love of your people, that on the 24th you are thinking about the lives of South Africans and Africans, of course, in the whole continent. That shows actually the love of that. But lastly, what I want to say about the President is that what we are doing here is his forte, social compacting. He loves it, he's a champion of it, and he himself has actually traversed all these key sectors. He has been a unionist, organizing. He has also been a businessman. He has also continues to be in politics for a long time, and also in government. So all the sectors represented here, the President has traversed all these terrains. President, we thought you will listen to us when we speak. Then it's your time. It's your plenary. It's your chance now to actually talk to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Nzimande. I extend my greetings to all of you who are here, and thank you, Dr. Mjwara, and also greet those who have come from various organizations, business, the academia, universities, also our various partners in various other countries, researchers, and all of you. It's a real pleasure to have this opportunity. Dr. Mjwara, let me start off with where you ended. You said whenever we fly in planes, we never really get to know at what speed the plane will be flying, and many other things. I make it my business. I always ask a lot of questions whenever I get into a plane. Sometimes I do go to the cockpit. But before getting in, I always want to know how many hours has the pilot flown. I always say, are you at 10,000 hours, 15,000 hours, so that I know who I'm dealing with. Am I dealing with a captain like Sally Smallenberger, who landed the plane on the Hudson River? Or am I dealing with one who's going to plunge the plane into some place? I also want to know the hours of flying. How many hours? Estimated time of arrival. I actually asked them questions like, at what elevation will we be flying? And what's your wind speed? And what's your wind direction? What degree is it going to be? And the other day I was in the Eastern Cape. I asked somebody about the gradient, and I do so deliberately because I want us all as South Africans to be very, very aware and educated about things that matter to our immediate environment. So I will ask them also about what their fuel payload is, and say, have you measured it properly? Is it in gallons or in tons? Because there are times when pilots have made a mistake. They measure in gallons instead of measuring in metric tons. And the nearest airport, if there's a bird strike, are you aware? Where is it? And so I gain great comfort in asking all that and being in the cockpit as well. And sometimes they think I'm a pilot. They say, oh, have you flown before? I said, Minister Nzimande, this is a really, truly welcome plenary. It's a very important initiative that brings together, as you correctly said, government, academia, civil society, the industry, collectively to drive South Africa's national system of innovation. This, for me, is really exciting. And as we were going around the various stalls, I kept, applying for a job. I said, when my job comes to an end, now or later, can I come and work for you? Because science and technology and innovation are essential for economies to thrive and for societies to prosper. And you correctly, some of you referred to what other countries are doing. In the new world of work and the new world of investments, in the era of the fourth industrial revolution, it's known that science, technology, and innovation determine which countries move forward and which countries are left behind, which countries will win and which countries will lose. Our own country has several strengths. According to the 2022 Global Innovation Index published by the World Intellectual Property Organization, our country is ranked 61st out of 132 countries. And you may well want to say what we are at the halfway mark, more or less. We should be better than that, of course, because our country performs above the upper middle income group average in three areas, namely in market sophistication. We have a fairly sophisticated market in South Africa. We also rank well in knowledge and in technology outputs, as well as creative outputs. And as just one walks around the various stalls here that are represented here, and I just wish the whole nation could be exposed to what the stall innovators who are here can see, because many of the products that I saw and the work that is being done here is truly outstanding. And according to the index, we have improved on indicators such as the number of patents by origin, citable documents, intellectual property receipts, high-tech manufacturing, and high-tech exports. Just here, the CSIR, each time I come, I often asked, how many patents have we registered? Because it's so important that we continue registering patents. Each time I go to Geneva, there's an intellectual property headquarters of the world, and I always ask, do we mine these patents that are here and try and get some that are about to expire and utilize them ourselves? Because that is what should be driving us, that level of creativity, inquisitiveness, and knowledge hunger. However, our performance is mixed with respect to the factors that drive innovation, factors such as education expenditure, expenditure on research and development, and access to information technology. There have been significant strides, one must say, in higher education that we need to recognize. The number of students graduating from public universities, for example, have increased exponentially from about 60,000 in 1994 to around 230,000 by 2018. The number, Minister Nzimande, must be much bigger than that since 2018. The share of graduates in science and engineering and technology fields have been also increasing compared to graduates in the humanities. Nothing against you, my sister, from the HSRC. Ke tla bua ka wena, I'll talk about you just in a minute. As we build on the investment we have made in the young people of our country, we also need to significantly increase our investment in research and development. In 2021, gross expenditure on R&D in South Africa was 0.6% of GDP, far below the target that we have set ourselves. Minister Nzibande and prior to him, Minister Naledi Pandor were always pulling out their hair whenever the budget was brought to cabinet and looking at that R&D line that we are way, way, way behind. We're lagging behind. And we should be moving forward and spending a lot more money. But we've got so many other demands on our budget and so many challenges. But we need to have priorities. And Dr. Kele, today, I think you made your point. That's why you wanted to sit next to me, I guess, because you were mobilizing. By comparison, in 2022, the United States spent 2.6%, and South Korea spent 5%. China spent about 3.6% of their respective GDPs on research and development. Now, this is a situation that we should turn around. And as we heard earlier, our private sector is tending to spend far less than the public sector. And in other countries, it's the other way around. For instance, I know of companies in China. There's one company in China which about 30 years ago did not exist, and today it is the #1 telecoms company in the world that sort of makes the switches and everything. They spend about 15% of their revenue on R&D. And they tell me that they've got 10,000 PhDs that they employ. And when a company does that, you basically see that it represents itself. It manifests itself in the growth of the company, the products it produces that are filtered into the economy, and then immediately has an impact on, as Stavros was saying, on manufacturing. And this is where we should be. Through greater cooperation between government and industry, we should be able to reverse this trend. And I'm glad that this collaborative plenary here includes business, because we would want business to take the lead, as business always takes the lead when it comes to research and development spend. And at the South African Investment Conference earlier this year, Minister Nzimande presented the early results of the Innovation Fund initiative, where the state has partnered with business in supporting technology-based SMMEs to commercialize their products. So far, through this initiative, we have succeeded in attracting 6 rand from the private sector for every 1 rand invested by the state. So we already see that there is something good that's beginning to happen. And building on our many strengths, I do believe that we can do much more. And we do have many strengths as a nation. And sometimes, as South Africans, we just become overshadowed by the many other challenges that we have, and never tend to look at the great strengths that we have. We just have to sit back and look at also what we have in the middle of the Karoo, in the middle of the desert, that we've got the biggest telescope in the world that is just leading the path for new technologies and more discoveries in the world. The Global Innovation Index highlights, for example, a significant increase in venture capital, which is an important indicator of an economy's innovative potential. I have just come from, as I said, the exhibition where we saw some of our country's innovations in mobility, in mining, in clean energy, and others. And I was particularly impressed when I stopped at the stand where we're developing energy to clean emissions, sulfuric acid and all that. But not only to clean those, like coal emissions, gas emissions, and oil emissions in either factories and refineries, and I would say in power stations, where we just don't clean, but where we convert some of that and we capture it into a whole number of other products, some of which are fertilizer, which will contribute greatly to our food security. Now, these are here in this country. COP28, which is coming to an end in a day or so, is already talking about how the world now needs to bring an end to utilization of fossil fuels. And some of those countries that are well endowed with oil and gas are now grappling with technologies that are going to help them to clean their emissions. And here in South Africa, possibly at a fairly cheaper level, we should be able to develop the great and advance the great processes and technologies to be able to do that. So the potential of science, technology, and innovation to modernize and expand productive sectors is vast. And we can venture into a whole number of areas. Hydrogen, and just around the exhibitions centers there, they're already doing that. One knows, for example, the research being conducted under the auspices of the Nelson Mandela Mining Precinct and the South African Mining Extraction Research Development and Innovation Initiative, which is aimed at revitalizing our mining industry. Significant research and development is taking place in new frontiers of industrial development, such as renewable energy and green hydrogen. Medical innovation, as my brother Stavros was saying, is another area where South Africa has recorded great progress. Our experience of COVID-19 has accelerated our nation's drive to achieve health security through, amongst others, vaccine production. And if you recall, as COVID hit us, many countries on our continent and many parts of the developing economy world were just running around looking for vaccines. And as Stavros was saying, much as the slogan was, "Leave no one behind," the more developed economies and somehow they were very sneaky because they had these big farmers that they knew would be able to develop the vaccine quickly. And they gave them a lot of funding and speeded them up and said, go ahead and do it, like I did when I phoned Minister Nzimande on the 24th of December. And I said, bring together some scientists. And I was rather glad I did that. At one stage, I thought maybe I'm mad, which I am quite a few times. So out of that madness, we were able to bring the scientists together. But the more developed economies had already done so. They had already given the farmers money and said, do the research. And boom, they were able to manufacture the vaccines. But having done that, they forgot about their slogan, leaving no one behind. They just said, leave everyone behind but us. And then they locked their own manufacturing and they just forward bought everything. So as we scurried around the world and calling, President this, President this, President this, they just said, no, we don't have really, we've only got a few. And mostly they were not telling the truth. They had bought for their own citizens. And so therefore, the lives of others became much more important than others. But this is where I'd like to applaud the SHRC as well as CSIR, because when COVID hit, we knew that these were two centers, including a number of private sector entities, that we could rely on. The HSRC from a social sciences point of view and the CSIR from a hardcore scientific engineering point of view to develop, yes, the respirators that we needed, and also on the social science side. And they really sort of jumped at the opportunities and did extremely well for us. If there's anybody who needs applause, those two organizations, let's give them applause. And I was very proud that we have these two science organizations or entities in our country that are owned by the people of South Africa that were able at the time of need to come to the fore. And today in the various stalls, you can also see how they are developing a number of other products. Earlier this year, the WHO officially launched its mRNA vaccine technology hub here, in Cape Town. Afrigen Biologics, a South African company partly owned by the government through the Industrial Development Corporation, is working on a new tuberculosis vaccine using mRNA technology. And we've got a number of foundations around the world that are also willing to support the work that we do. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is one of such, and they allocated some money to BioVac in South Africa to develop an mRNA vaccines using a local platform. This grant is going to enable our researchers and scientists to strengthen the pharmaceutical research and vaccine production ecosystem so that we are able to address both current and future health challenges. The reference that was made by Stavros about Gavi, it's almost a revolution that a big organization like Gavi, which has been buying vaccines for Africa from all over the world, is now turning around and saying, yes, we will buy from African countries that are able to manufacture vaccines. And just to think of it, the vaccines that have been utilized on our continent, 1.3 billion people, have nearly all been manufactured outside our continent. And when COVID hit, we were leading the charge that we want vaccines to be manufactured here on the African continent. And now that is becoming a reality. For us, that is a great victory and great progress and success indeed. We see innovation being deployed in the course of addressing another important issue, unemployment. The Jobs Fund is investing in science and technology that directly contribute to sustainable job creation, as well as small business development. Earlier this month, the Technology Innovation Agency issued a call for proposals from grassroots innovators looking for funding and technical assistance on developing new products and processes. Scientific innovation was harnessed during the floods in KwaZulu-Natal and other parts of the country last year, Eastern Cape as well. Now, recognizing the importance of real-time data to inform decision-making, the South African National Space Agency collaborated with the National Disaster Management Center to make high-resolution satellite imagery available to assist the rescue and the recovery efforts that we had to embark upon. Now, given the reality of climate change, which we see nearly every season, in our country, this kind of scientific collaboration will become increasingly important. Now, from these examples, just these few examples, it is clear that we are certainly progressing, but we are not doing so at a pace that is required. We need to add more speed. For science and technology and innovation to serve our economy and also to serve our people effectively, we need to aggressively and strategically to invest in education and skills development, because this is the lifeblood of a modern economy, and focus more on science, maths, and other skills. If it therefore gives me a lot of pleasure to announce the establishment of the Presidential PhD Initiative through an initial 1 billion rand investment from the National Skills Fund. Now, the aim of the first phase is to expose our country's brightest young minds to cutting-edge thinking and research by negotiating opportunities at world-leading universities and research centers. Their studies will be linked to large-scale and established research programs, both in the public research facilities as well as in private sector research facilities in various industries. The program will build critical skills in areas such as artificial intelligence research, advanced biotechnology, fuel cell development, batteries, storage, and other forms of storage, and next-generation mining as well. And I'd like to extend a call to the private sector and to our international partners to assist in growing the investment for the Presidential PhD Initiative Fund by 5 billion by 2030. Now, this is not a lot of money. It's small change and potatoes for various organizations. And I say, it is when we truly invest in research and development that we will be able to grow our economy at a much, much higher level. And we've seen that it works. Korea, China are countries that are latter-day developing countries economically, but they are overshooting the more developed economies by leaps and bounds, because they have focused on research and development. We can do the same. We are number 2 in terms of research and development investment, R&D investment on the continent after Egypt, and we can do much more and surpass Egypt also by leaps and bounds and many other more developed economy countries. Now, pooling resources and expertise has been a guiding principle of the work that government continues to do with various organizations. And sometimes when I'm insulted, they say, no, you consult too much, you shouldn't be talking to everybody. And I say, the strength of the work we do is doing it together with others. And I say, continue insulting me and calling me names and all that, but we will want to work with others. Business Unity South Africa, Business for South Africa, the universities, various institutions. We will continue collaborating, consulting, and working with you, because that is the strength of our democracy, and that is our DNA. So we will continue doing that, because that's when we become stronger. As we reflect on the potential of science and technology and innovation to contribute to South Africa's national priorities, we need to work collaboratively and ensure synergy between programs that we do across the national system of innovation. As we proceed on this path and journey, we can learn from the experiences also of other countries. Wherever we do things, I always say to my colleagues in cabinet, how do we rank compared to other countries? How have you benchmarked what we want to do now with other countries? What is it that we can learn from them? And this is the scientific way. Science is about being able to learn what others have done and to be better than what they have done. So we must harness education, experience, science, innovation to protect a whole number of other endowments that we have. Our natural environment, we must drive inclusive economic growth through all these and enrich all areas of human endeavor and human talent that resides in our country, because it is that talent that's in our nation that is the best thing that we have. So I wish you well in your deliberations. I wish I could stay all day. To me, this is like a toy house. I wish I could be here all day. And I look forward to the productive outcomes of this inaugural Presidential Science, Technology and Innovation Plenary. You are lucky to be here. I am unlucky because I have to leave, but have as much fun as you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'll now invite Professor Sibongile Mutha, who is a Vice-Chancellor from Nelson Mandela University, but she's also a Chair of University South Africa, to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, DG, Dr. Philip Mchwakha, Director General of Science and Innovation. I want to greet His Excellency, our President, Cyril Ramaphosa, our Minister, Dr. Blade Nzimande, who is now a newly recognized professor. I would like to recognize members of Cabinet that are in the audience and MPs, particularly our Committee on Higher Education, Science and Innovation this morning, the leaders of government, of business, the leaders of government, the DGs, the VCs, our colleagues in the science councils. All protocol is observed. I'm recognizing also members of the diplomatic corps that are here this morning. As it has been said by the DG, I stand here on the shoulders of my colleagues, the vice-chancellors of the 26 public universities in South Africa, and by extension on behalf of all our colleagues in the national system of innovation in our country. We would like to congratulate the Minister and the DG, and I here now congratulate you, President, for the vision behind this presidential STI plenary. Mr. President, our plenary today and your inspiring address have not only reminded us of the complexities and the urgency of the task at hand, but they have also given us pause to celebrate our significant achievements across a variety of fields since the advent of our democracy in 1994. But also I appreciate the fact that you have stressed the need for us to work across sectors and to work collaboratively. We realize that as a country, we remain challenged in all the three areas that are vital to sustainable livelihoods, including food, energy, and water nexus. We need to double our efforts in research and innovation to address these challenges. This has to be done in an inclusive manner, which also takes advantage of South Africa's huge potential in the area of indigenous knowledge systems and solidaristic economies. Minister Nzimande's own erudite address outlined two overarching strategic pillars of the DSI decadal plan, which we must get right. Firstly, he outlined the rapid expansion, upgrading, and pivoting of the national system of innovation involving all players, including public, private, and social sectors. Secondly, he highlighted a sharp focus that we must have on key technical STI areas in which South Africa must accelerate the rate of innovation. We wholly support this focus, this sharpening of focus, Minister, of the energies of our national system of innovation. We thank you for this advice. As Vice-Chancellors and a collective of leaders of the South African Academy, we agree that science and technology are the fulcrum around which everything revolves and upon which our progress and socio-economic development as a nation hinges. It is crucial to stress, as the Minister has already reminded us, that when we refer to the STI, we refer to the all branches of human knowledge, both natural and social sciences, as well as humanities. It is only through the bringing together of these branches of human know-how that we can both understand and solve problems of energy, food, transport, logistics, and the rest. We will redouble our efforts, even in the current context of resource constraints, because we understand fully the symbiotic dynamic between higher education's appreciation of its purpose and the advancement of society. As has so correctly been stated, education and skills is the lifeblood of any modern economy. That said, we need all the support we can get, and we will give all the support that we can offer. The higher education and research community have to work towards more creative ways of pooling and circulating its constrained resources to pivot our higher education system to support the decadal plan. This requires more cross-institutional collaboration on scaled-up STI programs in the key areas as outlined by the President and our Minister in the regions and provinces and national and transnational scales. We are of the firm belief, and this is supported by research, that appropriate and targeted resourcing of higher education in general and of innovation in particular offer young people more opportunities to realize their potential and grow their careers, be they as entrants in employment or as entrepreneurs. Universities South Africa's innovative entrepreneurship development in higher education program that we have run over the last 5 years and involving tens of thousands of young people and students, entrepreneurship development speaks to this commitment that we have. Our appeal for more and targeted STI investment is equally directed to the private sector, as the President and all the colleagues that came up here, including our Minister, have indicated. We believe that the contribution to research and innovation, it has been shown that the research and innovation contribution by the private sector has been decreasing, as Dr. Cele's presentation indicated. Against this challenging context, Mr. President, we are therefore hugely encouraged by your announcement that you have just made of the establishment of the Presidential PhD Initiative through the initial $1 billion investment from the National Skills Fund. And we also want to underscore your encouragement to business and the international community to support this initiative. Allow me to conclude, Program Director, by thanking Mr. Kas Kuvadia, the Chief Executive Officer of Business Unity South Africa, Dr. Thulani Dlamini, the Chief Executive Officer of CSIR, and Dr. Mlungisi Cele, the Chief Executive Officer, National Advisory Council on Innovation, for their insightful contributions. I also want to salute and thank the innovations from colleagues that came up from the floor, Lynn Morris, Professor Mswesa, Stavros, and our colleague, the ambassador of EU, for their insightful contributions. I would be remiss, though, if I do not thank all the exhibitors on their excellent and inspiring exhibitions. If these products and initiatives that we have seen on the exhibitions are anything to go by, we have exciting potential to be unleashed as a nation, hopefully through greater levels of collaboration and mutual leveraging. We thank you all for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thanks very much. We've come to the end of the session. I apologize, Mr. President. We are about 26 minutes late. I know that it's the time for DGs to be evaluated, but I hope the person next to you will give me a little bit of reprieve for being 30 minutes late. Thanks, everyone. May I suggest that we rise and allow the President and the Minister to leave? And please join us for lunch immediately after this.
Thank you.
All right, please let's enjoy the food on the foyer, and thanks everyone.